Let's check up on our fellow youth, see how they're doing and what they're up to, given that we're all under GCQ. So I invited a friend of mine. He's been my friend since college. His name is Carlos Rivera. Hey, Carlos, are you here?
Hey Erica, how are you
Hey,
doing?
Carlos, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you? It's nice to see you.
I know, nice to see you. It's been a long time. I
Been a
mean,
while.
when was the last time we saw each other? I don't think.
Um, I think a few months back actually. Like, no, we had an inuman, the Zoom inuman, like
Oh,
a
right,
party.
right, right. Yeah,
So
we had that whole group. But
let's
in
check
person,
in
yeah,
person. I don't know,
yeah. Like
like
I
six
think
months
even
ago. Yeah,
yeah, I know. Even way before way before ECQ.
way before this. Yeah.
I know. So okay, I mean I know what you do basically because you're a teacher and all that. I was really surprised when I found out that you were a teacher. But
So am
anyway,
I.
let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you're up to now.
All right. So hi everyone. So I'm Carlos again. So I'm a professor at iACADEMY. I teach user experience design. I'm also a marketing consultant. So previously I was in advertising. Um, so as a professor, I teach basically web design, research and research. So I teach like college students around second to third year college students. So it's a really fulfilling profession, though it's really hard now to do it online because like in a classroom it's when you teach close to 30 people, sometimes it could get pretty boring already. But what more online? So it's really challenging to keep people engaged, especially now.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine you being a professor, Carlos.
I,
It
I
was just
couldn't
like,
either.
yeah,
I
honestly, it
couldn't
was just
either.
like, right. It was just like yesterday. We were in college. Yeah. So background. Carlos and I met in college because of carpool. Different course though. What was your course?
I was MMA, so mixed martial arts. I mean multimedia arts. Yeah, so I couldn't imagine myself being a professor either. I remember when I was in high school, I hated school. So the biggest irony is that I became a professor. So that's
I
that.
know. I know. But hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. I mean, life just takes us to different places.
I know.
You took up MMA and then now you're a professor. It's really different, no? So you teach UX UI, right? That's what yeah,
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
UX UI.
Basically, yeah.
So how does that go though? How do you teach your students now?
Okay. I'm actually really lucky that UX UI is a subject that you can easily teach online.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the like with my students, usually we use a lot of cloud-based software
Yeah.
programs online, and then I check their work through there, and it's easy for us to communicate using Zoom or Google Meets or Google Hangouts. So I think, in terms of my class, we've adapted pretty well to online learning, though there's still a lot of elements of it that obviously would prefer to teach in person rather than online. UX UI is mainly like a lot of web design or mobile app design. So luckily, people already use the compute will already be using their computer a lot anyways. So
Did
that's
you get to teach in a classroom before the lockdown?
what's weird. I've never actually taught in class. Um, so that's the funny part. I was actually supposed to start teaching in February, but then like I had a retreat, so I moved the class to next week. And then before you know it, there's quarantine happened, so I never actually met my class in person. All the
Oh.
relationships we formed were online, was
Mhm.
online.
Okay. So, curious question. This is coming from me. What's it like being a teacher, specifically a professor, like a college professor? Again, like it was
Yeah,
just like yesterday we were in college, and then now you're like we were just the students, and then we had like a professor. Now you're in their position.
yeah.
What's it
It's
like?
Well, I felt like I never really appreciated my professors back in college until I became a professor. But it's really, well, one, it's weird. Like, it's weird in a sense that I can remember. It's only like, it seems like it's only yesterday that I remember being a college student, and then now I'm a college professor. So that aspect is weird. But it's definitely a new challenge as compared to working, as compared to like balancing it with an office job. So in the office, sometimes I'd be a team leader, and I would be training and teaching people. So it was kind of a skill that I kind of brought into the classroom. Though it's very different when it's students. Obviously, the relationship is different. So yeah, it's challenging in that aspect. It's a bit weird in another aspect, but it's also very fulfilling. Um, so I've been really I guess one part why I really wanted to teach. I've actually wanted to teach for a long time. It's just something I never like told anyone, but I've always wanted to go into teaching because I feel like I came from a very good school. Like Benil is one of the best in multimedia arts. Um, I've been in like I've been in really good companies, and I've been with people who trained me really really well. And I wanted to give it back. I wanted to share my experience, and by teaching, it's really fulfilling in a sense that I get to share like what I learned in the industry, um, what I've been doing to the next generation, even
That's
though the
so
generation is just 4 or 5 years younger than me.
That's so nice to hear, Carlos. I mean, as a friend, I'm very proud to hear that from you. I mean, I've known you for so long, and Professor Carlos, I'm gonna.
You can sit in the class if you want. I can send you a link.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so let's talk about the whole ECQ, GCQ. Where were you when Duterte announced na we're gonna have an ECQ?
Oh wow. Where was I? Emotionally or physically? No, I'm just kidding. Physically. So I was actually at home. When because I resigned from work last February. So I've been doing a lot of home-based work. Starting March. So I was there. I was just at home when it happened. So I didn't have to make a major adjustment in terms of like bringing all my work from the office to home because I was already doing a lot of freelance work then. And then the biggest adjustment was really like learning how to teach because I thought I'd be learning to teach in a classroom, but instead I'm learning to teach online through a screen. So
Yeah. So
yeah, that's where I'm at.
I was gonna ask you, no, how is the whole GC, well, now we're under GCQ, no, but for students it's gonna take a while, well, even for the teachers, I mean for everyone who's still studying, it's gonna take a while for you guys to go back to the classrooms, no. So how is it affecting you as a professor and your students?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think the earliest we'll be able to go back to a classroom is around August. But even then, like they want to push it further, which like we may or may not agree with. But so it's really difficult in a sense that a lot of classroom interaction is really based on forming a relationship with students. One professor told me a professor of mine told me I don't just teach subjects. Most especially, I teach people. So to form that relationship with people, with real students, is kind of difficult online because I feel people learn better when you can feel personal interaction. And I guess how it really takes a toll on the classroom is that a lot of the kids face anxiety, like a lot of even the teachers or even people who are working. There's a sense of anxiety around quarantine or GCQ that makes it hard to focus on your work. Um, so when that comes to teaching, that means we also have to be mindful of how the students are learning, how we can adjust our lessons. We can't put too much pressure on them. When we were given our orientation about restarting class during the quarantine, we were told that I really like this. I really like this piece of advice. It can even apply to managers, but we're not when we're with the students, we're not just their teachers. We're also their therapists. So it's learning to come up with that safe space for the children, for the, why am I calling them kids? But it's learning to come up with that safe space for the students to learn, to feel themselves, and also to be engaged in the lesson. I know there are calls like we should just like move classes until like next term or next term, but for some, in my experience, some of the students, they find the class therapy. Like some of them really like working because it takes them away from where they're at right now. So some of them do need that. But then there are some. But then again, there are some that it does have that added pressure, and we have to learn to be mindful of those. Especially in quarantine, we have to be mindful of those boundaries and learn to adjust according per student. So it's not really. There might be a bad conception that we're spoon feeding, like we'd be spoon feeding the students, but I think it's a very delicate time. And like as teachers, our first and foremost duty or responsibility is the student.
Right.
So that's how we operate in quarantine. So it's just being more mindful of the
Right.
students teaching.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, my sister is also still studying, so I could see how it affects. I mean, it's really affecting a lot of people, not just students, but those who are also working, and everyone is just really affected by it.
Yeah,
So have
crazy.
you? I know. We've never experienced something like this. Yeah, it's really different. We weren't also prepared for this too. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's just so
I was.
different. Cool.
Yeah,
It's like out of a sci-fi show.
actually, yeah. So, have you ever experienced, let's say, your student personally talk to you and say, Sir Carlos, it's weird. Sir
Sure.
Carlos,
Oh wow.
I'm having a different I'm sorry, I'm having a difficult time right now. Have you ever experienced that yet with any of your students?
I've had a few students come forward and say like that they were having a difficult time meeting all the requirements. So, but yeah, so basically that's it's basically just about the requirements, but not really
Mm,
their personal life.
okay.
Yeah.
And you as a professor, um you're fine naman with adjusting.
Yeah, it's a very difficult time. So like as a teacher, you really have to learn. Yeah, really have to learn to adjust. Because it's nearly it's useless naman or insensitive if you keep giving them work that they can't keep up with and they can't learn from. Because at the end of the day, it's them being able to take in the information that counts. So what I've been doing is I've been because I've been making small videos for them. So it's short 5 to 10 minute videos that they can watch at any time, so that even outside the classroom they can learn. And I know that even outside of like when they're done with our class, like when they graduate or they move on to the next level, with those videos they're still able to watch and go back to them. So it's like a lifelong learning process. Just keeping the materials, keep them updated. So it's not just within the confines of this 3 or 4 months that we have in the term that they can learn from me, or I can share it with them. Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice, Carlos. See, again, I've known Carlos for quite some time, and I know this guy has a very big heart. So, you know what, being a professor suits you. I'm sure your students and your future students will love you. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, thank you, Carlos, for sharing your insight. But I'll talk to you later, together with our other two guests.